Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for another episode of I Only Ask Because. I'm your host Tony, my co-host Dr. E, and what's today's topic?
Today, I kind of want to talk about whether or not it is celebrities' responsibility to carry an entire cultural struggle on their back. And I only ask because recently we've been hearing about a controversy with Snoop Dogg and Nelly and the young lady, that Tabitha Brown, who has items in Target for sale. And there's just an internal conversation about whether or not, as a community, since Target got rid of their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, should people who are impacted by that stop shopping at Target? If we stop shopping at Target, then will that negatively impact Tabitha Brown and her goods there? Obviously, it would if you're not buying them there. She does have goods for sale in other places and, of course, online. But again, the conversation is revolving around that. When it comes back to Snoop Dogg in particular, and him performing at an inaugural event, does that mean that as a late term baby boomer, I should stop banging Snoop Dogg when I'm in a car or whatever? like, um, anyway, I kind of want to talk about that. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Let me tell you something. I'm so tired of hearing people complaining about this DEI. It's ridiculous. First and foremost. Secondly, the only reason people are actually up in arms about it is because Trump's in the White House. That's all it is. Because that's all he got to say. And it's really annoying that, first of all, to go back to the inauguration, even Snoop told himself back in 2017 to his 2025 self that he was a slave for going to that inauguration. So, I mean, go ahead. He's staying on his own business. His past self was compared to today. So, I mean, it shouldn't be, I think, on a celebrity to put the culture necessarily on their back, but it is. You do have to hold yourself to a higher standard, I think. But that shouldn't mean that the rest of us shouldn't also hold ourselves to a higher standard as well. So, again, in terms of DEI, I think I'm not going to shop any differently because a company kind of took themselves out of that situation because we know who the president is now. Just like Zuckerberg and all these people who were basically all for this stuff until Trump was in office because they're scared of him. That's all. I'm not holding anybody. I'm not holding Zuckerberg, Target, any of these people that are getting rid of the DEI policies. I'm not really worried about them, but I am going to stick with the people that are staying and buy them. Costco, Southwest, companies like that. They're like, we know what the ramifications could be, but we're still standing 10 toes down. So I have more respect for them, but I'm not necessarily going to, I guess, boycott a Target or boycott a Meta because they're scaredy cats. But you see who the big dog companies are that are like, bring it on.
I mean, I agree with that. I think it's important to, first of all, going back to what you were saying about DEI, I think just squabbling amongst ourselves is really not productive anyway. And having said that, if you want to get down to the letter of DEI and the initiatives, there people of color are not the ones who have gotten most benefits from DEI and affirmative action initiatives. It's actually been Caucasian women. So I just want to, I'm that fact person. Fact check me if you don't believe me, but I want to go ahead and put that out first. And the only reason that's important is because if that's the case, then why are we continuously talking about DEI and should we have it and shouldn't we have it? Should we be woke? Should we go to sleep? Like, why are people using these terms as weapons? And
Mm-hmm.
that's really what's happening. I'm not really sure. I mean, I've never lived in this type of society before. What we're witnessing now, but what I can say is, historically, we've been here and we've been places like this as a society before. So if we were able to get past, other things, when you talk about boycotting, for example, um, back in the 50s and 60s, late 50s, early 60s, during the civil rights movement, I will say during the Montgomery bus boycott specifically, when thousands upon thousands of black people decided if we have to be treated differently but pay the same amount to ride the bus, we just won't ride the bus. Now you're talking about people who, not all of whom had transportation if they didn't ride the bus. And so as a community, what did we do? We carpooled and we walked ridiculous amounts of, miles just to get to work and get back. We did what we had to do, but we stood together in solidarity. And as a result, the Montgomery bus system and basically the city, because the city actually was running the bus system, went ahead and conceded that, hey, maybe we should not have our buses segregated that way. And, we can point to a lot of different causes over the years and over the decades where people got together and said, hey, we're not going to do this. We're not going to shop here. We're not going to buy that. And so sometimes in 2025, I have to ask myself, just be honest, look in the mirror. Hey, how many miles would you have walked to get to work in the rain in your work shoes if you didn't, if you weren't able to ride the bus and you didn't have a car? So I'm saying all that to say everything is relative. It's the whining. It's the whining for me. Like, okay, if this is that messed up, then what is your role? We've talked about team sports before. What role can you play? I cannot write a $50 million check. Like, tell me who that was that wrote the $50 million check to the opponent's campaign, but then turned around and had positive things to say about the new administration. I cannot remember who that was. I can never call his name, but he's like one of the big 3 or 4, right? So it's not Zuckerberg. It wasn't
Jeff Bezos?
It definitely wasn't him.
Oh.
I'm so sorry I brought that up. If I think of it during the time, I'll let you know. It was Bill Gates.
Oh, really? I didn't hear about that.
It was Bill Gates, yeah. And so I was really surprised to hear.
That's crazy.
At 50 mil, that's kind of a lot. Like, that's talking about putting your money where your mouth is. Well, as I mentioned, I can't write you a $50 million check.
Yeah.
But what I can do is try and stay positive and motivating and continue to fact check.